Hi, this is Bonnie Barker, BonnieBayCrochet.com, and this is another video on beginning knitting for crocheters using the Continental hold. Okay, for this small project, you're going to need just some scrap yarn, several yards, probably 20 yards or less would do for the project, and you're going to need some knitting needles. I'm again using my circular knitting needles. Let me show you that, just because I have a complete set. It's easy for me to use, but if you just have straight needles, that's perfectly fine. I'm using size 10, which is 6.0 millimeters, which is the same diameter as your size J crochet hook. We're not going to be using the crochet hook for this particular project, but I just wanted to show you that that is the same diameter. Okay, I also recommend you have a yarn needle for hiding the loose ends, for finishing off and sewing the side, and I recommend a pair of scissors for cutting the yarn, and a little tape measure would be very helpful for measuring your work. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go kind of slowly, just like I did with the first video. You don't have to watch these in any particular order. So go ahead and hold off about 12 to 15 inches of yarn, and this, we're going to use that for casting on. And go ahead, we're going to make a loop, going to make a slip knot, and then we pull the yarn through the hole like that. I'm going to go ahead and do that again. Make a loop. Actually, let me do that again. I'm going to fold it over this way. Then you can pull up the yarn through the center, give the tail a tug, and now we're ready to begin our casting on process. Okay, we're going to make that snug, not too tight, but snug. Now remember, I went over this in the other video on the knit stitch. This video is going to actually cover the knit stitch and the purl. And the big thing about doing this, making the transition from crochet to knit, is just in the way that we hold our yarn. Some of you crocheters may have a different way to hold your yarn, and if so, I would encourage you to maybe, change it up a little bit for this process. But when I crochet normally, I lay the yarn across my hand like so, and then flip my hand up, and then pointer finger usually is my yarn supply, helps with the tension. I'll talk about the tall man in just a minute, and the ring man just kind of goes along for the ride, but the pinky is my brake man. Okay, this is the finger that kind of controls the tension a lot by stopping the yarn when I need it to be, stopped and taut. Okay, now when I'm crocheting normally, these two fingers, the tall man and thumbkin here, usually holds on to the work or the garment or whatever it is, the fabric that I'm crocheting, and then the right hand would, of course, control that hook. Well, in knitting, the left hand pretty much does the same thing, except in the knitting process, as you'll see, it's going to have the job of holding the other needle. Instead of holding on the fabric, these two fingers are going to hold the needle. These other fingers are going to do the same thing that they would normally do while you're crocheting. Okay, but before we do that, we need to cast on. And to do that, take the yarn that goes to your yarn ball, your yarn source, and go ahead and get that hand ready to go. Now, take this other strand, this is the tail that we're going to use for what we call the double cast on, and put your thumb under it like this, okay? And then take your other fingers and grab the yarn. So it should look like this. And now what you're going to do is go under and then go over, and that's one. And we're going to do that again. Under, over, and that's 2 stitches. We're going to do this until we have, we've only cast on 2, but we already had the slip knot here. So we're going to do this until we have 10 loops on our needle. Go under, over, Okay, that's 3, 4, actually that's 5 because of this one, so I'm going to say that's 5, under, over, that's 6, under, over, that's 7. I'm going to reposition my hand a little bit, and now I'm going to do it again. Under, over, that's 8, under, over, that's 9, and then one more under, over, and 10. I'm going to double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, now we are ready to knit. I'm going to turn. I'm going to get my hand ready. Make sure I put the right string in it. Okay, I have my hand ready just like I would the yarn for crochet. And I'm going to hold this just like so. Okay, now I get the other needle. Now this is going to be just like we did in the other video. We're just to knit. We're going to take the needle and we're going to go along the back side here, under, just like that. We're going to put the yarn over the stitch or over the needle, and then we pull it through like that and then slip it off. Let's do that again. Stick it in right there, yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull it off the needle. And that is the knit stitch. Stick the needle in. Yarn goes forward. Make sure you go forward, not from the back over the back, but go forward. Stick it in. Yarn over, pull it up, and slip it off. Stick that needle in, go over, pull up a loop, and slip it off. Put the needle in, go forward with that yarn, pull up a loop, and slip it off. Forward with the yarn, pull up a loop, and slip it off. Okay. Forward with that yarn, pull up a loop. Okay, so we have done one row of the knit stitch. Okay, now we're going to do something a little different called the purl. And one thing that I've quickly learned about knitting, it really, hoping to give you faith to try this, it's really in some ways easier than crochet. With crochet you have approximately 5 or 6 foundational stitches you have to master before you can pretty much do anything. In knitting there are 2. You've learned one, the knit stitch, and now let me show you the purl. Okay, there are 2 stitches, and basically how you use them will determine what the fabric looks like. And now of course there are lots of little tricks and things to skipping them, and lots of things that I have yet to learn, but generally there are 2 basic stitches once you cast on. Okay, so now for the purl stitch we're going to bring the yarn inside, but before we do that I am actually I'm going to knit the first 2 stitches on the end. Okay, I'm going to have just what we've been doing. We're going to knit the 2 on the end. Okay, now we're going to do something called the purl stitch, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring the yarn forward. Do you see how the yarn is in front of me now? It's not behind the needle, it's actually in front of both of the needles. Okay, now I put the needle towards me. Actually, let's try that again. Yeah, needle towards me, and then I'm going to wrap the yarn forward like so, and if I move my finger down it helps me to wrap it forward, pull up, and then slip it off. And I'm going to do that all the way into the last 2 loops. Okay, the yarn is forward, I come towards me with the needle, put my finger down just to wrap it around that needle so it catches, and then slide off. goes down. Okay, now I'm going to do something different on those last two. So I go all the way. Okay, now for the last two, I'm going to move the yarn to the back side of the needle, and I'm going to do 2 knit stitches like you've already done. Everything goes to the back. In, wrap it around, and slip it off. Okay, so this is actually going to be the back side of the cup cozy, and this is going to be the front side. So I hope you can see the difference from what we did with the other video, which is called the garter stitch or just a straight knit. Okay, so these stitches in the middle, these 6 stitches in the middle, are going to look different than the 2 on the outside edges. I'm just doing that on the outside edges just to kind of give it an even and a nice little edging. Okay, so now we're ready to do another row. Now when this is going to be a little different from the first cup cozy, because the other cup cozy we're just knitting straight, but here we're using a mixture. Okay, so for this, whenever you see this side, this is the front side, when you see these knits side that look like this facing, you're going to knit all the way across. Okay, everything is just knit. Let's go ahead and move it towards the edge. So we're going to knit by going to the back, yarn over, pull it through, and pull it off. Okay, so this is fairly easy. You can see once you get going and get the motion, get that muscle memory going, it really does become almost as easy as crochet if you've been crocheting a long time. Okay, and that's with the front side. You just do all knit all the way across. Now I'm going to turn. Now this is the back side, and this is with the purl side facing. But I'm going to have you do, we're going to do the first 2 in the knit stitch, where you stick the hook in the back just like we've been doing, just for 2. Okay, now we're going to bring it forward to do the purls. Forward, and then you want to wrap it forward. You can bring your finger down to help, you know, get that, just like that. And then we have one more. Okay, and then I'm going to knit these last 2. Okay, and now we're back to the knit side, or the front side facing. Getting a little twisted here. So when we get to this side with this knit pattern, we just knit straight across. I'm getting all tangled. Okay, let's go ahead, just do the knit. You can see I'm not totally smooth with this yet. And knit them all the way across. Okay, I'm going to do one more row because we're just doing really row 1 and row 2, back and forth, and I will show you. This is the purl side, or the back side facing. So we're going to knit the first 2 and the last 2, remember that, by doing the same motion we've been doing, and then bring the yarn forward, and your needle goes forward, and then wrap it. You can put your finger down. Whoops. I'm trying to pull my yarn up at the same time. Okay, let me try this again. Reposition my left hand in the yarn. Make sure that yarn is in front. And do this until you have 2 on the needle. Okay, now the last 2 we're going to do as a knit stitch. Okay, let's turn around and take a look at this. So this is how our cup cozy is starting to look. Okay, so go ahead and do this until this section here is approximately 8 inches long. And then after you do that, I'll show you how to bind off. Okay, now that I've completed 8 inches worth, this is what we should have. Okay, this is going to be just long enough to make into a circle for a nice little cup cozy. I'll show you in just a second. The next thing we need to do is we need to bind off. Okay, so in order to do that, I'm going to slide this all the way back. Right here. Okay, and the way we do the bind off is the same way we did in the first video. In case you didn't see that one, I'm going to show you again. First thing we're going to do is we're going to knit 2 stitches off, like so. Now we're going to take this first loop, we're going to take our needle, we're going to lift it over that. It's like doing a chain, really, with crochet. Okay, now we're going to knit. I'll push these down a little further. I'm going to knit the next stitch off, and then pull the first loop that's on there over. So once you get 2 loops on the right side, you can just bind off, is what we call that. So knit the next one, slide, and then slide it off just like so. Okay, so we're going to do this all the way across. I'm going to go ahead and do them all with you, since this is kind of a new thing for most of us. And lift. Only 2 left. And lift. Whoops, I just dropped that one. Let's try that again. Okay, so this is what happens when it falls off. Okay, we're going to knit that one and lift. Let's get it all the way through. There we go. And then the last one, you knit off and then pull this one over. I'm going to use my thumbnail to grab it there so it doesn't get away from me. And all we need to do now is cut this strand and pull it on through. I'm going to leave a nice long, about 8 to 10 inches, because we're going to use that to thread into our sewing needle. Okay, so I'm going to just go ahead and pull that up and out like that. And so we have a nice edge. It looks like slip stitches across. It's pretty much what it is. They just call it binding off and knitting, and we crocheters are used to doing slip stitches. So this is what we have. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the right sides together because I'm going to work this seam, and just like we did in the first video, we can use our needle, our yarn needle, to go ahead and just line these up. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Go ahead and thread the needle. And let's go ahead and just, actually I'm gonna do a little bit better job on this one than I did on the first one. I'm gonna go ahead and start here. And we just line these stitches up as best we can. Okay? And I'm using the whip stitch. Just a very simple way to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this across, and then I'll show you what I have. Okay, once we get to the end, we just want to make sure we go all the way to the edge and make a knot. And I'm going to actually run a lot of these strands right on back through, so they'll be pretty well hidden. Okay, go ahead and give it a clip. Make sure you don't clip your stitches. And I'm actually gonna work this other end a little bit closer so it gets lined up a little bit faster. This was actually the other end. This was the end that I actually fastened off, and I used the other tail at the beginning to sew. You can do it either way. So I'm going to go ahead and just bring it in a little bit closer, more towards the edge for my holder there. Okay, and I'm going to run this under some stitches as well. Give it a tug and fasten off, or cut as closely as we can, and give it a little pull there, and this is what we have. Okay, so that seam doesn't look too bad. I mean, so this is what we have. So this easily can slip over one of those paper coffee cups at your favorite store where you get your coffee or your hot tea. And you could use it over, mugs at home, whatever. So that pretty much completes our project. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please subscribe to my channel. Hit that little subscribe button, little red button up there. And please join me for some more crocheting videos. And I'm going to continue on with the knitting for crocheters. God bless. Bye-bye.